Hi there, welcome back to the dojo. I am Russ Leach, I'm the comic book black belt, and this is one of a series of videos where I'm going to talk about this book, How to Draw Comics the Marvel Way. There are lots of books out there that profess to be able to teach you how to draw comics, and a lot of them are really good. But this is the daddy. This is the book. If you've got one book to teach you how to draw comics, or to help you how to draw comics, this is the one you should have. It's not perfect, but it is very, very close. It also has one of the finest artists ever to grace comics, John Buscema, drawing within its pages, and Stan Lee writing the book. Now, I was very fortunate to be involved in Draw the Marvel Way, which is similar in its approach. I put in there my hints, tips, tutorials of how to draw the Marvel characters. I've been blessed with being able to draw a ton of Marvel characters for Marvel within these pages, and it was 100 issues over just over 4 years. There were some other extremely talented people involved in the book, and it really is a good book in my personal opinion, but it still has not got a patch on this one. So what this series of videos is me effectively going through all the sections, all the lessons, all the chapters of this book, giving you some examples of my artwork that I feel that I've improved, or I've benefited from this book, and how that works for me. And in the chapters where you draw along, I'll be doing some drawings, and hopefully you can draw along with me, and hopefully it'll be of some use to everyone out there, and if nothing else, it'll be an advert for you to go out and buy this book. I'm using a PDF that I got from an educational download. I will put the link to that PDF in the description for each video in the series, but I can't instill enough in you. Go and buy this book and put it on your desk, because it's an absolute must-have. So without further ado, I'll get on with this episode. Chapter 6. First off, just look at the screen and see what a wonderful drawing that is of Namor, or Namor, however you pronounce it. Just fantastic. The movement in that, which is what this chapter is primarily about. It's about action. The last two chapters are a bit about the figure, so how the figure's put together, literally the physicality of it, drawing the figure, and different sizes and shapes and what have you, and you know, the production process of it. So like, do you use a stick figure or do you use a sketch method? Either way, it doesn't matter. Look back at that video to find that out, or read through the book. And then this one, this chapter 6, it's the dynamism, it's the movement, the action. Let's move on. The name of the game is Action, in Stan Lee's own words. Action, a Marvel speciality, a Marvel trademark. Sharpen your pencil, Pilgrim. Here's where we separate the men from the boys. Sorry if there's any girls watching. The women from the girls. So let's just say it like that. Okay, just being able to draw the figure is only half the job. When you're drawing comic book superhero sagas, you've got to be able to move it, to animate it, to put it in action. So somebody actually said this to me earlier on today about some work that I'd done, is they felt that there was real flow in my comic book work, and it was almost like watching animation, which is an incredible compliment. And that's effectively what Stan Lee's saying here. Is it's not a static, it is a static picture, but you're trying to create movement, you're trying to generate energy and drama. Using what you've learned in stick figure drawing, take a character running, walking, playing ball, throwing a punch. Draw a series of stick figures, as on the facing page you can see what's going on there, depicting as many different stages of that action as possible. Familiarise yourself with moving the body. Work from one figure into another, slowly, loosely, casually, using as many scribble lines as you wish. Don't try to draw a finished drawing. See, that's important, very important, to sketch that base of a body in. Just loosen up to try to feel the action. Notice how the first drawing and the last one in that particular sequence seem to have the most impact, the most action. In a Marvel story, the artist would use either of those shots rather than the tamer ones in between, and that providing that action, generating that energy in a panel, in a sequential series of images, very, very important. You've got to keep the reader engaged. Comic books are a visual medium. They're telling a story, and just a bunch of talking heads or slack figures isn't going to cut it. Even if you've got a quieter moment, using angles to make those figures more dynamic, that works as well. There's lots of reference out there for good panel creation. Remember, in these sketches, all you need is 3 or 4 lines to establish the action. See the 2 sketches at the bottom of the page. Notice how Johnny caught all the action he wanted in just the fewest of lines, and see how skillfully he was able to build on it. You'll be doing this too. Try to exaggerate your action, keep the figure loose, supple, always in motion. Notice how 3 or 4 lines establish the action. You see that what John Buscema is doing here is obvious, just how much action is involved, and how he's instilling energy and movement into the figures. Pay particular attention to the center line drawn through the figure from top to bottom. This line is always drawn first. It gives you a curve or the swing that you want your figure to have. So it's effectively the general movement of the body, and then the limbs and everything else come on top to give you that alter action, as it were, to make that interest in the composition of the anatomy of how it's moving, of the position. Always remember, every pose has a certain rhythm, which is probably what I'm trying to say, just not very well to it. With this one simple center line, you can determine that rhythm and then start building your entire figure around it. Very important page, this. It's really important stuff. Now let's study figures in motion. So there you go, motion figures. It's the same kind of thing. You're studying about how a figure moves, how it moves through a 3-dimensional space. Same thing goes for these. Both depict a character reacting to a punch in the jaw. While 2 is perfectly clear, understandable sketch, it simply isn't done in the Marvel style. So what he's trying to say is, you want more action, you want more energy coming from a pose or from the anatomy in action. The movement, the sharply curved centre line of 2A. See how much looser 2A is. See how the legs are bent and thrusting backwards as the arms jut forward. See how the head follows the centre line that he was talking about, completing a graceful, fluid curve. Now that's Marvel. Certainly that's very dynamic. Even when characters are just standing, the same rules apply, which is what I was saying earlier about even if you've got talking heads and quiet times in your story, it's still very important. Notice the figures on the facing page. In each case, a smaller figure is okay, but just okay, not particularly dramatic. And then look at the other figure, and it talks about these variations. And you can see there, it's perfectly. Look at the way that, especially that one down the bottom right. So all it is just one arm up, one arm down, but the curve in the back, everything about it, the wider legs up there. So I said that I'd do some drawing. So let's try something. Let's get a thicker pencil on this. How's that? Go a bit thicker than that. It's got to draw something big. So let's have somebody pointing. Yeah, somebody pointing. So they're going to be pointing. There's going to be here. There's that back. There's that back curve there, and the head will be there. So they're going to be pointing that way. There, and the figure's legs there, so coming down to there. So you've got that. There's the rib cage there. It's a strong pointing that way, pointing look that way. See the underside of the jaw, neck coming down. The 3-dimensionality of that rib cage there, and into the hips, strong legs, down into to jut down onto the floor. Make sure they it connects. Maybe a small bend in the arm, give it a little bit of motion there. The finger pointing. The hand, again, it's very, very rough. Just to, then we can put the muscle work in there. So you can see how quick and simple it should be to just knock a figure up from that basic line and the curves and getting that the understanding of where all the limbs are within the structure of anatomy. It's pretty straightforward stuff, and it just started off with that first curve, getting that roughly where the shoulders were and the head, and then the legs coming down, and that's how I started it off. So you can see how quick and simple that can be, and I mean, this isn't the most powerful of figures, but it's still got some drama to it. The way that I've faced the figure, the direction in which the figure is faced. I'm looking at it 3/4. I've got the chin moving upwards and pointing up skyward. I've got a strong dynamic arm at the back there. Obviously, you requiring to have good figure drawing skills. Make sure you've got hands working correctly. All the rest of it. It's quite a slim figure as well. I've not gone overboard on muscles and stuff. It's just slim, but it's got that dynamic, yeah, and it's a strong figure. So you can see how quick and easy it is to just knock these figures up, and then what you can do is without worrying too much about the correct anatomy, you can knock together panels really quickly and really start running through the sequence of your panels. It is sequential art. You're telling a story, so you want to get that out of your head and on the screen or on paper as quickly as you can, and that way of just quickly knocking out figures in this way can aid you pushing your story even faster in your process. So that was just me having a quick crack at that, because I said I would. And then there's just lots of some great examples. And look at the way the back curved there. That's great. Just standing. That one right in the middle, where it's just standing with their arms folded, and the one in the chair as well. Superb stuff. And just gesture, there we get on to, we all know you're anxious to start drawing a complete figure now, so let's get right to it. John has reduced the process to a matter of 5 steps. Draw the basic centre line to determine your pose and action curve. 2, start fleshing out the sketch. Remember your spheres, cubes and cylinders. You can see as you go through there. 3, begin drawing through, adding the details you're going to need. Remember, keep your pencil strokes light. It's like I was saying in the previous video. When you've got layers, you're doing things digitally, you don't have to take those kind of things into account. But it's effectively the same process. You're sketching and adding all the time. Just with a digital process, you can use layers instead of drawing over the previous sketch. Keep your pencil strokes light and graceful. If a line isn't right, don't worry about it. Just go over it lightly until it begins to assume the proper form. Steps 4 and 5, as we have to tell you, are on the next page, but it's all in one. Voila! After studying all the little sketch lines you've been doodling, we finally select the ones that please us the most and go over them once more, bearing down harder with the pencil. At the last, the final stage, the final drawing begins to take shape. In Chapter 2, remember how we added black tones to our various spheres, cubes and cylinders in order to give them form? Notice how we accomplished the same thing on the human figure. There'll be more about this later. We just wanted to whet your appetite. You see, that's just a beautiful picture there. Great SpiderMan job here as well. You can see he's punching through, and the stick figure, and then the three-dimensional objects, adding in proper anatomy. I mean, look at what's going on there in the anatomy. It's so simple and so fantastic. They've got some samples here. Or examples, I should say, of actually how these final panels, these final illustrations would have been put together. These are all done retroactively, I have no doubt. But you can see just by looking at this and see the form and how that works. That Spider-Man at the bottom is wonderful. So I'll just quickly show you now some samples that I've picked out. So here we go. This is Storm Chasers issue 8, which I'm in the moment. I'm about to do the inks on. You can see there's the pencils here. So if we just pick out this one here, so punching through. So there she is. She's punching through. So let's look back and see how that was produced. So I started off with my sketch. Sort of, they aren't actually stick figures, but they might as well be. They're just, you know, laying placeholders for your figures. And then I've drawn through those sketches, and you can see where I've got the movement there, and she's come round 3/4 towards you for the drama. There's a final musculature that I've put on over the top. Just want to make sure that the anatomy is correct in those cases. And then the final pencils. And so you've got her punching and he's further away, so you've got a harsh foreshortening perspective going on there in that panel. Another one here, this guy's punching through, he's punched through the wall. So you can see where I've sketched that in. Built up on that sketch, make sure the muscles are in the right place, and then final pencils on over the top. These aren't final pencils because I do my own inking a lot of the time, so I don't need to go whole hog, just enough for me to understand what's going on. And then this last one, I quite like this one actually. This is one of my favourites from this issue. And you've got this dynamic jump where he's striking 3 robots at the same time. This is Interceptor. Just taking its time there. What have we got here? No, not there. There you go. That's the initial sketch. Okay, you can see there's quite a bit of energy there. You do lose some energy as you tighten up your work. There's no doubt about that. The first sketch is always the most energetic, but if you can lose as little as possible, you know, you can keep your work fairly energetic. There you go. There's the anatomy that's going in on top of that initial sketch, and then the final pencils there. I move on to an earlier version of Interceptor. I think this was the first issue of Interceptor actually for Unstoppable Comics. I've got the inks there. And you can see where I've sketched in and how, you know, the energy and the flow that's going on there in the sketch, nailing down the anatomy and putting it into those final pencils. I went whole hog on these pencils actually, even though I was doing the inks myself, but quite enjoyed doing that. And that's that final ink page. And it's over the top, so that running pose from the guy at the top there, it's just too much. It's just, you know, nobody really runs like that. But it doesn't matter. That's the whole point. Is this high energy dynamics that you want to put into your comic strip work. Here we've got, again, penciled ink page. Where did we start off? Here you go. There's the very basic sketch. I think it's more of a thumbnail actually than a sketch. And then I went in. I think I must have missed a section off here, but you can see where I'm trying to get as much energy. I mean, again, all that guy's doing is saying, you know, go beat this other guy up, but you're overdoing it. It's like hamming it up. Comic book work, at least the superhero stuff, the sci-fi stuff, you've got to ham it up. You've got to overdo it, and it's like really cheesy acting, I suppose. But that's because it's such it is a visual medium. You need more energy. You need more of everything really to make it so that you want to look. You keep the reader engaged. As soon as you start becoming boring, it's like you've lost your reader. It doesn't matter how good your story is, and that's the point of comic book art and comic book writing. They're a synergy. They work together. You can't have one without the other. Get rid of those. That's some pencils. So you can see the start. Obviously, the googly eyes I've got there on the guy coming down with the axe, and then I've managed to get that sketch in and get that anatomy correct. Again, he's pointing away there at the bottom, the kick across the face, and the way that the head is jerked to one side, and the expressive hand. that's, you know, that's how you keep that interest in your panels. There you go. I think this book ended up being sort of half penciled, half inked. It actually ended up having a really nice art to it. Nice look. There you go. Like, nobody stands like that, but it doesn't matter because it's all about the drama. This started off. So yeah, it started off as this sketch, so that was all it was. You can see even then, as much as I'm pleased with this final image here, there's a slightly different angle there, and there's a slightly different energy. And then as it moves on, tightens up, you always lose just a little bit of energy in the work there. That was where I was just making sure and figuring out the anatomy correctly there. And there's the final piece. I was actually very pleased with this. I think it's quite dramatic. It was good fun. I enjoyed the inks on it. The colours came out lovely as well. But even people that aren't built full of muscle, so like all the people I've been showing you have been typical superheroes, like perfect bodies and all the rest of it. But here we have Peter Capaldi in Doctor Who, the Doctor Who Adventures book that I used to do. And even that, even though it's by its nature physically not as energetic, you still want to instill that energy. You still want to instill that drama, especially into your anatomy, you know, as we've seen in the book from Stan and John. And so let's start off. There's the sketch to start off, and you can see I'm trying to get that flow as the crocodile creature comes past, and he does the Spanish bullfighter thing with his cloak, and he's running off, and again an over the top running pose, foreshortening perspective on the axe breaking the chain, and then them running off. And again, even though that's not a super dynamic run, okay, it still requires flow. Right, so I've got that flow. She's pulling him along. He's running after her, slightly looking back at the guys that are after him, the dog creature or the wolf creatures that are after him. You know, moving those shoulders into the bullfight pose and dropping the shoulders into the way that he's running there. And then I applied just a little bit of anatomy. Obviously, I'm pretty sure that Peter Capaldi isn't built like that, but that it's just the muscles underneath the skin, just getting it exactly right. And then, as you can see down there with the axe, getting those muscles in the right place, which is particularly important, especially if you're going to put them into perspective. And then that final pencil, how that came out. I was actually really pleased with this page. There's lots of action and fun in this page. You can see them running away there through the perspective. And then lots of characters in the background there, lots going on in this page. And then there's the final inks, and that's how that one came out. So you can see, you know, it doesn't matter what your characters are, whether they're, you know, hugely built solid superheroes like the Hulk or Superman or something like that, or whether they're, you know, light and nimble like Doctor Who, or this particular version of Doctor Who. And the characters around him, you know, you have to instill that energy, that beat of story, that dynamism, that weight and gravity and drama to your figures, and you know, that's what this book does just so well. Finish off. There's samples. Just look at that, gorgeous. I think that top one there, that looks like Palmer ink in that one. Just gorgeous. Just the flow that's involved in John's work is just amazing. But this whole sort of section on figure drawing, fantastic stuff. And chapter 7, we're going into the knack of drawing the figure in perspective. So I'll have some different examples for that in the next one. Again, this quite happily sits on the back of, you know, making your figures involved in high action and high drama environments and settings. So that's it for this chapter. Thanks very much if you've dropped in to watch it. You can catch more on my YouTube channel, obviously. So please like, share and subscribe. If you can share the video, that's great. It's really good for the algorithm. Love to have people subscribing. If you've already subscribed, once again, thank you so much for subscribing. It means a huge amount that people are interested in what I've got to say about artwork, and also my own artwork as well. And I'm always interested to find out what you're doing, whether you've got a channel, and please drop me a comment, or catch me up at the various haunts I am on the internet, and we'll have a chat about comic book art. So to find me, you can go to my websites, russleach.com, comicbookblackbelt.com, or my website for my new book, onlydeathcansavus.com. All of those places have a link. There's a link in the description of this video as well to my email subscription list, where I can keep you up to date with things that are going on with the channel, and more importantly with the book. And I won't be filling your inbox up with rubbish, so don't worry about that. You can also find me over at Instagram, you can find me at Twitter and Facebook. Come over and join me over there. So that's about it for this chapter. I'll be back with another chapter again soon, and thanks very much for joining me in the dojo today. I'll see you again real soon. Bye bye. Thanks for watching Comic Book Black Belt. If you've enjoyed the content from this video, please like, share or subscribe, and come over and follow me on Twitter. It's been great having you in the dojo. See you again soon.